I'm Katy. I'm a heroin addict. Hi. Hey. All right. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really nervous. And I was thinking about how, like, whenever I hear speakers, they usually say that. They usually say that they're really nervous. I'm like, they all say that, but they say that because it's true. Anyway, so for as long as I can remember, I felt like there was something wrong with me. Like I didn't fit in, or I wasn't doing things right. And this was because I didn't know how to love myself. I was pretty angry as a child. Not that I'd have necessarily, like, I wouldn't get in fights. I wouldn't really express it outwardly. It was more, my anger would just eat me up. I was abandoned when I was a baby in South Korea, and I was about 1 year old when they found me, and I was taken to an orphanage where I was for about 9 months, and then I was brought to Oregon and given to my parents who adopted me. And my parents, who I consider my real parents. If you ask me about my real parents, they're who I'm going to talk about. But if you ask me about my biological parents, there's not much I can tell you. I don't know. But anyway, so my real parents, the ones who adopted me, are generous and loving, and they're just a great example of good people. And I didn't know why they loved me. I felt like I was disposable or replaceable, and I felt like I didn't have it in me to have a good life, to be happy, to contribute, to make great contributions to society. And I wondered why they chose me. Like, I wondered why, of all the babies they could have adopted, why they chose me. So I wondered that, but I also wondered why I was left as a baby. So I don't remember it. I don't remember being left. I don't remember being adopted. I don't remember much from before I was like 10. But I thought because I don't remember it, I thought it didn't affect me. But the fact of the matter is that I wondered why I was left. And I thought it was my fault. So I didn't get into alcohol or drugs much in high school, just a little bit of weekend stuff. But then when I got to college, I was drinking, and I met people who had access to pills, and they introduced me to them. And when I tried them for the first time, painkillers, it was like I could quit hating myself. And I don't know, it's like, this must be what happy people feel like. And I fell in love with them. And I didn't really know about addiction, and I didn't know about detoxing or withdrawing. So when that started happening, I thought I was just super, super depressed, which I was, but I didn't realize it was because of taking away this thing. And I was talking with a friend of mine one day, and I asked her if she minded, like, you just don't mind that I do drugs? And she was like, well, mostly I wonder why. And I was like, because it's like a vacation. She's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, it's a vacation for myself. And she said, why do you need a vacation from yourself? And that's when I realized how much my anger and that's when I realized that how much I didn't like myself. Because it was like, that's why. Because I don't want to have to be me. And when I realized that I didn't want to be me, I didn't know how to be me, but I didn't know how to be anyone else either. But I realized I didn't want to be alive, like, because I didn't want to have to be me. I didn't really know how, and I didn't want to do it anyway. But I also felt like I owed my parents, because they adopted me, which is international adoption. It's a huge process, stressful, and pretty expensive from what I understand. And I just felt like I had to try one more thing if I was going to try to kill myself. And so I talked to my doctor, and she suggested inpatient. And I was like, I felt like that was kind of extreme. Like, this is the first anybody was hearing about my abuse of anything, of any substance. But they sent me to inpatient, and that's where I had a counselor who helped me realize that I did have these questions about, like, why things happened the way they happened. And in realizing that I wondered certain things and felt certain ways about myself, like, I was able to kind of, it took a little bit of the power out of those questions and feelings. It doesn't mean that I don't wonder still, but it means that I understand that I wonder. I understand that I won't get the answer, and that's, I don't know, that's how it is. And I don't have to focus on trying to figure out what I'm feeling. I know what that is, so I can just kind of leave that. So I went to inpatient treatment, found this out. I felt relieved. I had come off the detox, and I was on basically like the pink cloud. And so I just thought, like, okay, recovery's cool, I'll do this. I felt, they took us to 12-step meetings, and people were, like, excited to see me because I was a newcomer, and I don't know, I wasn't used to people being excited to see me, or if ever anybody was, I definitely couldn't recognize it. So I tried recovery for a while. I graduated that treatment and stayed in recovery for a little bit, but I kind of thought I was cured. I was like, we named those demons, and so now they don't have power over me, and I'm just going to stay in recovery. I'm going to go to meetings and make recovery friends because it's fun. It's cool, But then I got bored. Like, I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't work steps, and so I didn't really do any more growing. And I thought, well, it's time to move. So I moved to Colorado, where my sister was going to school at the time, and I got a job, and I heard about people. We had a Christmas party, and I heard about some people they were going to go get some stuff, and they were going to sell it, and somehow I heard it was heroin. And until I moved to Colorado, I hadn't done heroin, but doing the pills the way I did, people had told me, like, if you like these, you're going to love heroin. And, being an addict, I'm like, I love things I love, so let's do that. Yeah, and so I tried it, and to be 100% honest, I wasn't all that impressed, but I wanted to like it. I knew there was something that people liked about it, and I wanted to like it, and I was supposed to like it, and So I kept doing it until I was sick if I didn't. And I ended up quitting my job, and I had this credit card that somehow let me take cash out. So I racked up this huge, just not even really thinking about the fact that it was adding up, that I was going into thousands. And I don't know. So there was that, and there was just lying to my sister, and something in me knowing that wasn't really what I was supposed to be doing. I had more depression again, and I came back to Oregon to visit my family, my parents, and they could feel the depression. They could feel that something was wrong, and I had no intention of telling them that I'd gone back to using something, that I'd gone back to self-medicating, But for some reason, when my dad asked, I told him. And I really it surprised me, because I didn't mean to do, Anyway, so my parents, trying to save me again, sent me back to inpatient treatment. And I was pretty heartbroken about the fact that, life had gotten good. I had gotten happy. I was enjoying things, but it didn't stay that way. And so, like I said, I moved to Colorado and went back to drugs. I don't know. It was disappointing for me, I guess. I wanted it to be easy, and it wasn't. So I thought, I don't really need to not use drugs. I just need to keep it under control. So really, this time when I went to treatment, it was to learn how to use responsibly. I wanted to start fresh. I wanted to get to where I wasn't sick without it, and then I was just going to use it, and I was going to make sure I didn't use so much that I would get sick without it. So a week or two out, I was using again, and I was spending time with people that I'd been in treatment with, and they didn't seem to notice that I was using. Which, looking back, it's they must have really not wanted to see it, because I don't know how they didn't know. But that also made me think, okay, I'm controlling it. People don't know. It's okay. I was miserable, though, and got into a relationship, and got pregnant, and when I found out I was pregnant, I thought I was really scared. I was like, I am too selfish to have a child. How can I love a child? I'm just trying to make some sort of life that I can wake up to and not be depressed about. And then my son's dad was excited about my being pregnant. And in that, I started to realize that this was a really good thing. And there was, this was going to be the first person I know that I'm going to have a genetic relation to. Not that that's, really important as far as family goes, but at the same time, I saw other people have it, and I didn't look anything like my parents, and I started getting excited about this little person who was going to be, we're going to have a blood relation. And I ended up being able, dear God, I don't know how, okay, because of God, I guess, not I guess, because of God, I was able to wean myself off of drugs, and the last 7 months of my pregnancy, I was clean. And actually 7 months after my son was born, I was clean too. While I was pregnant, though, at the beginning, my son's dad got in trouble for another DUI. He has his own demons. And he went to prison, and on Brandon's 7-month birthday, his dad got out of prison, and he was released in Deschutes County, but we did all these petitions to get it so that he could be transferred to Marion County so that we could live with my parents until we could, build something else together. And the PO was actually Dean Bagley. The PO was Dean Bagley, who's the drug court PO right now. Do you believe it? So when he became the drug court PO, it was like, but anyway, he was like, this doesn't work, but my parents really stable, and I was doing well at the time. I'd been clean for over a year, and he approved it. He approved the transfer. He was like, this doesn't usually work, but we'll give you a shot. A couple weeks after Chris, Brandon's dad, got out of prison, we were using again. I don't know, this is one of the, well, actually, no. Okay, so when we went into using, it wasn't like, oh, everything sucks and screw this. No, it was, this is going to be fun, and we'll just do this for we have these couple days to do it, and then we have these few days to recover from it, and then we'll go back to normal. It was all planned out. And then I couldn't stop. Chris wanted to just stop, but I wanted to taper off. But I couldn't have stuff. If I had stuff, then he wanted to use it, and then I couldn't taper off, so then I'd go get more. And I'm not saying that even if that's not how it happened, I don't believe I would have been able to stop anyway. I don't believe I would have actually been able to taper myself off and then be okay with it. But at the time, I thought it was because of him. I was like, if you could just leave me to my stuff, then you quit your way and I'll quit my way, and we'll both have quit. That we'll be following the plan. And it didn't work, and we had to break up. Things got violent, and at this time, he threatened to kill me, and my thinking wasn't even about I still didn't love myself at this point. I was really proud that we had this healthy baby, and I loved this baby, but I didn't love myself. My thinking was if he kills me, then my son's going to be here when his mom gets killed, and he's going to be there with his dad, and so that's what pushed me to make the right decision as far as breaking up, because I'd never been in love before, and I definitely never felt committed like that, and I thought you just had to get through everything. You just had to, I thought the people that made it were the ones who decided not to give up. And so I was damned and determined not to give up. And so until that point, I wasn't giving up. And it was a lot of hell. And I don't know. So we broke up, and Chris went back to Deschutes County, and it was everybody was right. Everybody who said that it won't work out, that even staying together through his year in prison, and just everybody was right. And now I'd like tainted this time with my son, and I still wasn't able to stop. And you know how you promise yourself you won't ever do certain things. I was doing those things because I couldn't not use. I was using around my son. I was using when I was taking care of him. And this had gone on for a few months, so at this point, he's actually, when he was about 10 and a half, 11 months old, I got myself into treatment. My parents didn't this time, and so I was like, this will work, because it's my doing, it's my choice. I wanted to be there for his first birthday because for some reason, I don't know what happened around my first birthday, and the first birthday held significance to me, so I wanted to be there. So I went to treatment, and this is the first time I'd actually spent a night away from my son, and I couldn't really do that without something outside myself. And something outside myself that I had access to in inpatient treatment was a dude. And so, I don't know, that's where I went. That became my solution. That became my distraction from the pain. And I ended up getting in trouble for that, like a few days before his birthday, my son's birthday. And they weren't going to let me go to his birthday. And this inpatient treatment is an 18 and over, like they don't do sex offenders, background checks and screenings and stuff. So he's not allowed, Brandon, 1-year-old, is not allowed in the facility. So I was gonna have to get a pass to go out to his birthday, and because I had gotten myself in trouble, they weren't gonna let me go on that pass. All this time I didn't feel like I was done. I felt like I wanted to use, but I wanted to not want to use. I didn't want to be clean, but I didn't want to be hurting my family. And so this feeling that I had this feeling that I wasn't done. And between that feeling and getting myself in trouble and making it so I wasn't going to be able to be at my son's first birthday, these were all excuses that I used to leave treatment. And I was going to get done. I left treatment because I was going to go use. I didn't lie to any. I was honest about that part. It's like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to get done because I don't want to use, and right now I want to use. And I also don't want to drag my son in and out of being clean and relapsing, and I thought I had to get done. I figured it would take maybe a month, and about a year later, I was homeless and stealing, and I got caught, and I got a possession charge, and I got offered drug court. And I could not stop using. I didn't really know what was going on. I was facing felonies, and that was new to me. I hadn't really gotten in a lot of trouble before. And I don't know, I was trying to figure out how to get around this drug court thing, but I also knew this was like the only way that I could not have a felony, and since I had that chance, that's what I was going for. But I wasn't doing my meeting slips. At this time, if you didn't do your meeting slips when you were pending, you did not get in. And I'd have excuses for why I didn't have them, and they didn't care about the excuses, which was different for me because my parents, wanting to save me, wanting to believe me, wanting me to be this better person, they wanted to believe that I that I could do things that I would say I do. They wanted to believe me, and that's powerful. At least it is for me. When I want to believe something or someone, it doesn't matter if I know that it's not true. I mean, I love my delusions. But drug court didn't care, and they denied me. And I went to an Annex date, and I took drugs with me. And they found them. I'd gotten them in through security, but then they were in an uncomfortable place, so I put them in my purse because they weren't going to check me on the way out, I didn't think. And anyway, judge was like, "Are you okay? You seem disoriented. Let's do a UA," And so they did a UA, and it was positive, so they were gonna, so he sent me into custody, and they were going to release me, but then they found the drugs. And so they didn't release me, and I was in jail for 7 days, which is tiny compared to some, but for me that was, it was too much time with just some cement and time to think, and I wrote the drug court judge a letter, like telling him this isn't who I want to be. I don't want this to be my life, and asking for another chance, and he gave me another chance. And I almost blew that too. They said I should go to detox, and I didn't want to, but then they were telling me that if I didn't, that I couldn't do drug court, and so that's why I did go to detox, and that was the last time I used drugs. However, after that, I was abusing a medication that's prescribed to me, one of my antidepressants, and I was using needles to inject it. I was addicted to the ritual, and they couldn't UA me for it. It wasn't a narcotic. It was something that was prescribed to me, and my parents, it was at least as bad as when I was using. My parents hated the needles. They hated that I was doing this. It was still an obsession. It was still, when's the next time can I do this? It was still taking me away from my family. It was still a priority over my family, and it was still just madness, and that's actually where some of the biggest pieces of the hell I put myself through or got myself into. Those are some of the biggest pieces that remind me what I don't want to do. I was homeless for a while and in a hell of a relationship, and I don't actually know why I threw that in there right there, except that was one part of the hell too. That was between the relationships, the failed one with my son's dad, and the one that I had while I was using and and being homeless. And then after getting clean, but having the addiction to the ritual, I was tired. I was really tired. Anyway, drug court found out that I was still using needles, and I'm not really sure why they didn't kick me out. Instead, they sent me to inpatient treatment, and it was an all-women's treatment, and that's what I needed. I was coming off of the second terrible relationship that I'd had in the last couple years, and so I was actually ready for a break from guys. I didn't have any faith in guys anymore, and it was good to be around women. And I didn't want to go to the inpatient treatment though, because it was going to be all women, because it was going to be 4 to 6 months, and it ended up being 8. But because it was, I didn't want to do it. I'd done inpatient treatment before, and I fought it. I looked for all these ways to get out of it. And when I went there though, just like drug court told me to, just like they said I would, it was just kind of like, it felt like it was out of my hands. And that's where I got to surrender. Like, that's where it was like, okay, I just have to do, I can't fight anymore. I was so tired. I was tired of trying to sneak around, trying to make people believe that I was doing okay when I wasn't. And that's part of why I was there for so long, because I got to where I was just like, okay, I'll just be where I am. You know, when I got to 6 months, which is usually about where people leave, they didn't tell me I had to, and I'd gotten comfortable. You know, it was safe there. It was these women I loved and women who loved me, and no one wanted to see me hurting. So, and also my parents were happy because I was safe. I was, you know, they didn't have to wonder if they were going to get a phone call, you know, the parents, their fears when their child is out using. They didn't have that. So they got to sleep, you know, and I got to be part of my son's life, and it was pretty easy. It got pretty easy. So I didn't really want to leave, but I did. I graduated, and drug court told me to move into an Oxford house. That's where they have people go after inpatient treatment generally. I'd had it in my head all along that I was going to go back to living with my parents, who my son also lived with. So I thought I was going to, that's where I went to treatment from, and that's where I thought I was going to go back to from treatment. And drug court told me to move into an Oxford house, that I had to go to an Oxford house. And I remember crying about that because I wanted to go home. But I got voted into a really great house. And I got to see what it was like to live outside of treatment, but different than by myself or with my parents. The thing about my parents is that as much as they love me, they don't understand me, which I don't blame them for at all. Like, I don't understand me. And I think a big part of that is because addiction isn't logical, so it's not easy to understand. But the house encouraged me to really get involved in the recovery community. There's a blackout period where you have to go to 30 meetings in 30 days, and that helped me get to know some people in the recovery community in Salem. And those people became my friends. And those people are people that I look forward to seeing, and that I don't know, that just make my life fun. They're funny people. I love funny people, but they're also real. And I guess I didn't really realize that there were so many wonderful people that I could have access to. And that's what recovery does for me, is it gives me access to these people. And it gives me connection to them, whether we've spoken or not. There's plenty of differences in our stories, but there's way too much similarity in our pain, I think, to get in the way of our connections. I got a sponsor. I worked the steps. I finally did what was suggested, because I finally hated everything else enough. Like I hated what I hated the life. I was tired of the game. I finally got to where I hated that enough that I was willing to try this other way, because I'd looked for the easier, softer way. I looked really hard. I really wanted to find it. I wanted to be able to use my drugs and have a happy life. I wanted to be able to use my drugs and not break my parents' heart. I wanted to be able to use my drugs. And I looked for a way to be able to do that. And today, I don't look for that way. If it's out there, it's for someone else. Today, I get to do service work. I get to tell my story. Thank you for asking me. I get to tell my story so that it's not for nothing. Because otherwise, I don't really know what to do with my story but hate it. But if I can share it, and it can help us, it helps me connect a little more to somebody, that's what I need. That's what fills my heart and makes life more than bearable. Like today, things are definitely not perfect, and I am nowhere near perfect. But I don't know, the more I trust my higher power, the more my higher power shows me that it can be trusted. The more I give it a little bit of faith, the more that faith is rewarded, and the easier it is to keep that faith, even when I don't understand why things are happening the way they're happening. And I don't know, if you're new or if you're coming back, I hope you can give the steps a try. I hope you can give other people's ideas a try. I really wish I would have given it a try before I kept trying to find the easier, softer way. Could have saved a lot of grief, but at the same time, for me, that's not how it was supposed to happen. I believe things happened exactly how they're supposed to. Again, I don't know why exactly. There's a lot of things I don't know why. But I don't know, it's about, I don't know, for me, it's I finally feel like I do have a place. And that's huge, because I just always, like I said, I'd always felt like there was just something wrong with me. Like I was basically just a mistake. And not, more than just like the condom broke, or we forgot our birth control, more than that kind of mistake. An actual like almost, well, I guess like my higher power, like I thought he'd made a mistake, like saving me. And today, I have people in my life who want to help me because it helps them. It helps them to help me, not because they get anything from me for it, but because they're good people, and so doing good things does something for them. And that's who I hang around. I hang around people who want to be better, who work to be better, and who encourage me too. Part of what's scary about speaking is that, like, at least for me, is I know I'm going to leave stuff out. I know I'm going to think about what I said later and be like, oh, that came out wrong. So I kind of like don't want to stop now. I want to go over all the things that I said and clarify what I don't know. So if some things didn't make sense, or I don't know, then just go ahead and fill in the blanks to where it does make sense, and to where it lets you know that recovery is worthwhile. It's not easier than anything, but it's better than everything, at least for what I know, from what I've seen. I'm grateful to be here and have the chance, the opportunities to grow, and be part of people's lives, and have people who, I don't know, make me glad that I'm alive, you know? I don't know. I wish I had more of a message, but that's all I have for now. Thanks for listening. Thank you.